8 years of marriage down the drain because Jessica thought grass was greener with her high school boyfriend Ryan. She destroyed our family for a fantasy that lasted exactly 3 months. When I finally moved on with Amanda, Jessica came crawling back, begging for another chance. But by then, I had already discovered the truth about who Ryan really was. The day Jessica saw him kissing my so-called replacement was the day she realized she had thrown away everything for absolutely nothing. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The text message arrived at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. I know the exact time because I was still awake working on the Henderson account presentation that was due the next morning. My phone buzzed against the mahogany desk in my home office, and Jessica's name lit up the screen with words that would change everything. Michael, I can't do this anymore. I need space to figure things out. I'm staying at Lisa's tonight. I stared at those words for what felt like an eternity, the blue glow of my laptop screen casting eerie shadows across the room. 8 years of marriage, 2 beautiful daughters sleeping peacefully upstairs, and this was how it was ending. With a conversation, not with counseling, but with a text message sent in the middle of the night, like some teenage breakup. My hands trembled as I typed back. What do you mean, space? Jessica, talk to me. The 3 dots appeared and disappeared multiple times before her response came. I saw Ryan at Sophie's soccer game last week. We've been talking. I think I made a mistake marrying you, Ryan Martinez. The name hit me like a physical blow, too. The chest. Her high school sweetheart who had joined the Marines right after graduation, breaking Jessica's heart when he left for boot camp without proposing. The same Ryan who had returned to Riverside 2 years ago with a successful construction business and a wife named Sarah. The same Ryan whom Jessica claimed to barely remember when I mentioned seeing his company trucks around town. From my desk, and walked to the window overlooking our backyard. The oak tree we had planted when Sophie was born swayed gently in the night breeze, its branches now tall enough to brush against her bedroom window. Everything we had built together, everything we had promised each other, was crumbling because of a ghost from her past. The next morning brought chaos, disguised as normalcy. Jessica returned home while I was making breakfast for the girls, her eyes puffy from crying, but her jaw set with determination. Sophie and Emma chattered about their upcoming school field trip, completely oblivious to the tension crackling between their parents like static electricity before a storm. Daddy, why? Does Mommy look sad? Emma asked, her 5-year-old intuition picking up on what we thought we were hiding. Mommy just didn't sleep well, sweetheart, I managed, shooting Jessica a look that said we needed to talk immediately. Shh. She avoided my gaze, focusing intently on packing the girls' lunchboxes with the precision of a surgeon. After dropping Sophie and Emma at Riverside Elementary, where Jessica taught 3rd grade in the same building, we sat in my Honda Accord in the parking lot. Teachers and parents moved around us like we were invisible, everyone busy with their own morning routines, while our world imploded. How long? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. It's not what you think, Michael. We've just been talking. About old times, about what might have been. Jessica's words came out in a rush, defensive and practiced like she had rehearsed. This explanation? That's not what I asked. How long have you been talking to him? She fidgeted with her wedding ring, the white gold band that had belonged to my grandmother. Since the soccer game. Maybe 3 weeks? 3 weeks. 21 days of lies, of pretending everything was normal while she was emotionally cheating, with the man who had broken her heart 15 years ago. 3 weeks of me working late to provide for our family, while she was texting her first love behind my back. Do you love him? The question escaped before I could stop it, and I immediately regretted asking because I could see the answer in her eyes. I don't know, she whispered, but her hesitation spoke volumes. I think I might. I think I never stopped. The logical part of my brain wanted to fight for our marriage, to remind her of everything we had built together. The wounded part wanted to scream at her for throwing away 8 years for a fantasy. Instead, I felt something inside me go cold and calculating. What do you want from me, Jessica? You want a divorce so you can run off with Ryan and play? House like you're 17 again? I want time to figure this out. Maybe we should try separation. Her voice grew stronger, more confident, like she had convinced herself this was the mature, reasonable approach. And the girls. What do we tell Sophie and Emma when Mommy moves out to chase her high school dreams? Don't make this about the girls, Michael. This is about us. About whether we're really happy or just going through the motions. Oh, going through the motions. As if building a business from nothing, buying our dream house on Maple Street, raising 2 incredible daughters, and supporting her teaching career for 8 years was just going through the motions. As if the life we had created together was somehow less real than whatever fantasy she had constructed around Ryan Martinez. That evening, after Jessica had packed a suitcase and left for Lisa Park's apartment downtown, I sat in our living room. Surrounded by family photos that now felt like evidence of a crime, Sophie and Emma were spending the night at my mother's house, spared the immediate chaos, but inevitably destined to become casualties of their mother's selfish choices. My phone rang, and James Wilson's name appeared on the screen. My business partner and best friend since college had an uncanny ability to call exactly when I needed him most. Heard through the grapevine that Jessica's been seen around town with Ryan Martinez, he said without preamble. Thought you should know people? Are talking. Of course they were talking. Riverside was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, where teachers dating their high school boyfriends behind their husbands' backs became the stuff of coffee shop gossip and PTA meetings. My humiliation was now public. Entertainment. She moved out tonight, I told him, the words feeling surreal as I spoke them. Jesus, Michael, I'm sorry. What do you need? What did I need? I needed my wife to remember why she married me instead of waiting for a man who had abandoned her without a second thought. I needed my daughters to have an intact family. I needed to not feel like an idiot for believing in happily ever after. I need to know everything about Ryan Martinez, I said finally. His business, his marriage, his finances, everything. If Jessica wants to blow up our family for him, I want to know exactly what kind of man she's choosing over me. James was quiet for a moment. Michael, I understand you're hurt, but maybe you should focus on saving your marriage instead of investigating the other guy. She made her choice, James. She chose him over 8 years of marriage, over our daughters, over everything we built together. I'm not going to sit here and beg her to remember why she loved me, but I am going to make sure she sees exactly who Ryan Martinez really is before she destroys everything for him. After hanging up, I walked through our house, really looking at it for the first time in months. The family photos Jessica had carefully arranged on every surface. The artwork the girls had made that we had framed like masterpieces. Furniture we had picked out together piece by piece as our income grew. Everything told the story of a life built together, of dreams shared and goals achieved. But tomorrow, I would start rebuilding. Tomorrow, I would show Jessica exactly what she was giving up and exactly what she was running toward. But tonight, I would grieve the marriage I thought we had and prepare for the war I never wanted to fight. The house felt impossibly quiet, without the girls' laughter echoing through the halls, without Jessica humming while she graded papers at the kitchen table. But in that silence, I found something unexpected. Clarity. For the first time in 3 weeks, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Jessica thought she was choosing love over obligation, passion over stability. She had no idea that her perfect Ryan Martinez was about to reveal himself as anything but perfect. And she had no idea that her husband, the man she thought she could walk away from without consequence, was about to remind her exactly what she was losing. The game had begun, and Jessica had made the first move. Now it was my turn. The investigation into Ryan Martinez began at 6 a.m. the next morning with a cup of black coffee and my laptop. While Jessica was probably waking up in Lisa's guest bedroom, convincing herself she was following her heart, I was discovering that her Prince Charming had some very interesting secrets. Martinez Construction had been struggling for the past 18 months. Public records showed 3 liens against the company, 2 unpaid contractor disputes, and a pattern of project delays that had cost them several major clients. The successful businessman Jessica thought she was running toward was actually hemorrhaging money and desperately trying to keep his company afloat. More interesting was the divorce filing I found buried in the county clerk's records. Sarah Martinez had petitioned for divorce 6 months ago, citing irreconcilable differences and requesting spousal support. Ryan wasn't just married, he was in the middle of a messy divorce that would likely cost him half of whatever assets he had left. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Girls are asking when mommy is coming home. What should I tell them?" I stared at the message, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. Sophie and Emma deserved better than parents who communicated through lawyers and used them as weapons. But they also deserved to know the truth about why their family was falling apart. "Tell them mommy and daddy are working through some grown-up problems, but we both love them very much. I'll pick them up after school." The response came immediately. "Michael, whatever Jessica has done, those girls need stability. Don't let your hurt turn into something that damages them." My mother's wisdom stung because she was absolutely right. This wasn't about revenge against Jessica. It was about protecting my daughters from the fallout of their mother's midlife crisis. But it was also about making sure Jessica understood the full consequences of her choices before she made them permanent. At Thompson and Wilson Marketing, James had already started his own quiet investigation. Our business had given us connections throughout Riverside's professional community, and those connections were proving invaluable. "Ryan's been borrowing money from some questionable sources," James reported, closing his office door behind him. "Word is he owes about $60,000 to a private lender downtown. It's the kind of guy who doesn't take kindly to late payments." "How do you know this? Remember the Henderson account we landed last month?" "Tom Henderson owns half the construction supply companies in the county. Says Ryan's been buying materials on credit for months and making excuses about payment delays. Tom cut him off 3 weeks ago." 3 weeks ago. The same time frame Jessica had been secretly communicating with her first love. The timing wasn't coincidental. Ryan wasn't just rekindling an old romance, he was looking for a way out of his financial problems. And Jessica, with her stable teaching, salary, and access to our family's assets, was starting to look like a solution rather than just a sentimental journey into the past. "There's more," James continued. "I talked to Carol down at the country club. She handles the event bookings there. Apparently, Ryan's been asking around about catering costs for a wedding reception. He seems pretty confident he's going to need one soon." The audacity was breathtaking. Ryan was planning to marry Jessica before he had even bothered to finalize his divorce from Sarah. He was so certain he could manipulate her into leaving me that he was already planning their future together. The calculating bastard had probably targeted her from the moment he saw her at that soccer game. That afternoon, I picked up Sophie and Emma from Riverside Elementary. Walking through the halls where Jessica taught, seeing her classroom door closed because she had called in sick, felt like navigating a crime scene. Other teachers offered sympathetic smiles and carefully worded questions about Jessica's health, their concern obviously masking curiosity about our marriage. "Mrs. Patterson." The principal stopped me near the main entrance. "Michael, I hope Jessica feels better soon. Children in her class have been asking about her. She's dealing with some personal issues," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "She should be back soon, of course. And please know that if there's anything the school can do to support your family during this difficult time, we're here too." Help. The diplomatic phrasing told me everything I needed to know. Word about Jessica's situation had already spread through the school's gossip network. By tomorrow, every parent in Sophie and Emma's classes would know their teacher was having marriage problems. By next week, the whole story would be common knowledge at every PTA meeting and school event. Driving home with my daughters chattering in the backseat about their day, I made a decision that would change everything. If Jessica wanted to pursue her fantasy with Ryan, she was going to do it with full knowledge of who he really was. And if she still chose him after learning the truth, then our marriage was truly over. But first, I needed to meet Amanda Chen. I had noticed Amanda at several business networking events over the past year. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. She was intelligent, articulate, and represented Chen and Associates law firm with a professionalism that impressed everyone she met. More importantly, she was approximately Jessica's age, attractive, and completely unaware of my current marital situation. The Riverside Business Association met every Thursday evening at the country club, ostensibly for networking, but really for gossip and deal-making over overpriced drinks. I hadn't planned to attend this week, but circumstances had changed my priorities. Amanda was standing near the bar, engaged in what appeared to be an intense conversation with Robert Chen, whom I assumed was her father, based on their similar features and the way he spoke to her with paternal pride. She wore a navy business suit that conveyed authority without sacrificing femininity, and when she laughed at something Robert said, her entire face lit up with genuine warmth. "Michael Thompson," I said, approaching with my most confident smile. "I don't think we've been formally introduced. I run Thompson and Wilson Marketing." "Amanda Chen," she replied, shaking my hand with a firm grip. "I've heard wonderful things about your agency. This is my father, Robert Chen." Robert's handshake was equally firm, his assessment of me swift and calculating. "Michael, yes." "James. Wilson speaks very highly of your partnership. Are you here looking for new clients or just enjoying the social atmosphere?" "Little of both," I admitted, though I have to say the company tonight is particularly engaging. Amanda's cheeks flushed slightly at the compliment, but her smile remained professional. "Thank you. Are you working on any interesting campaigns lately?" For the next hour, we discussed business, shared stories about difficult clients, and discovered a mutual appreciation for classic literature and obscure foreign films. Amanda was everything Jessica wasn't: focused, ambitious, intellectually curious, and completely devoted to building her career rather than dwelling on high school fantasies. "I should probably head home," I said eventually, though I was reluctant. To end the conversation, I have 2 daughters who need help with homework. 2 daughters? How wonderful. What ages? 7 and 5, Sophie and Emma. They're the best part of my day. Something shifted in Amanda's expression, a softness. That suggested she found devoted fathers particularly attractive. "That's lovely. It must be nice to have such a close family." "It is," I replied, choosing not to elaborate on my current family situation. "Perhaps we could continue this conversation over dinner sometime. I'd love to hear more about your work." "At the law firm." "I'd like that," she said, her professional composure slipping just enough to reveal genuine interest. We exchanged business cards, and I drove home feeling something I hadn't experienced in months: anticipation for the future rather than dread about my crumbling marriage. Jessica called that evening while I was reading bedtime stories to the girls. Her voice sounded strained, exhausted from whatever emotional journey she had been on with Ryan Martinez. "How are Sophie and Emma?" she asked. "They're fine. Confused about why you haven't been home, but fine." "Michael, I think we need to talk. Really talk. Not just argue about Ryan." "I agree. But I think you need to know some things about Ryan before we have that conversation." "What do you mean? I mean, your high school sweetheart isn't exactly the successful businessman you think he is." "He's facing bankruptcy, Jessica. His company is failing, his marriage is ending, and he owes money to some very dangerous people. You're not his second chance at love. You're his escape plan." The silence stretched so long, I thought she had hung up. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely audible. "You're lying. You're trying to poison me against him because you're jealous." "I have documentation, Jessica. Financial records, court filings, everything. Ryan Martinez is using you, and you're too blinded by nostalgia to see it. I don't believe you. Then meet me tomorrow for lunch. Bring Ryan if you want. Let him explain why he's been asking about wedding venues while he's still married to Sarah." Another long silence. When Jessica spoke again, her voice was shaking. "Even if that's true, it doesn't change how I feel about him. It doesn't change the fact that I married you for the wrong reasons." "What were the wrong reasons, Jessica? Because I loved you? Because I supported your career? Because I gave you a beautiful home and 2 amazing daughters? Because I was trying to be practical instead of following my heart? Because I convinced myself that love was about security and stability instead of passion and connection." The irony was devastating. Jessica was throwing away 8 years of genuine love and partnership for a man who saw her as a financial opportunity. Was calling it following her heart. She was about to discover exactly how much passion and connection money troubles could destroy. But she would have to learn that lesson the hard way. After hanging up, I sat in my home office and called Amanda Chen's number. "Michael, it's everything. All right, I was wondering if you'd be free for dinner tomorrow night. There's something I need to tell you about my current situation, and I'd rather explain it in person, of course. Is 8 o'clock too late? 8 o'clock is perfect. Tomorrow, Jessica would have to face the truth about Ryan Martinez. And tomorrow, I would begin showing her exactly what she was giving up by introducing Riverside to the impressive, accomplished woman who was interested in building a future rather than reliving the past. The lunch meeting with Jessica took place at the Coffee Bean Cafe, the same quaint downtown spot where she had apparently been conducting her secret romance with Ryan. The irony wasn't lost on me as I spread financial documents across the small wooden table while she stared at them with growing horror. "This can't be right," Jessica whispered, her fingers trembling as she examined the court filings. "Right," Ryan told me his business was expanding. Said Sarah was just being vindictive about the divorce. Sarah Martinez filed for divorce because she discovered Ryan had been forging her signature on loan documents. I explained, keeping my voice calm and factual. He used their home as collateral without her knowledge. She's lucky she found out. Before he lost everything they owned. Jessica's face had gone pale, her coffee untouched and growing cold. She looked exactly like someone watching a beautiful dream crumble into ash. Part of me felt sorry for her, but a larger part remembered the text message that had started this nightmare and the casual way she had dismissed 8 years of marriage. "Maybe there's an explanation," she said weakly. "Maybe these documents are wrong or taken out of context. Then ask him. Call Ryan right now and ask him to explain why he owes $60,000 to Tommy Russo downtown. So ask him why he's been telling people he's planning a wedding when he's still married to another woman." Jessica's phone sat on the table between us like an accusation. She stared at it for several long minutes before finally picking it up with shaking hands. The call went straight to voicemail, which wasn't surprising since Ryan was probably busy trying to keep his company from complete collapse. "He's probably on a job site," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Jessica, I need to ask you something, and I want you to really think before you answer. When Ryan first contacted you, what exactly did he say? How did the conversation start?" She closed her eyes, clearly trying to remember details she had probably romanticized beyond recognition. "He said, seeing me at the soccer game brought back all these memories. He said he had made the biggest mistake of his life when he left for the Marines without fighting for us." "Did he ask about our marriage? About our finances?" "Well, yes, but that's natural. People want to know how old friends are doing." "What specifically did he ask about?" Jessica's discomfort was becoming more visible by the minute. "He asked if you were successful, if we were happy, if we owned our house. But Michael, that's just normal conversation." "And when did he tell you he loved you? When did this friendship turn romantic?" "About a week after we started talking. He said he had been thinking about me for years, wondering what would have happened if he had stayed." I leaned back in my chair, watching Jessica's face as the timeline became clear to her. Ryan Martinez hadn't contacted her because of overwhelming love or nostalgic longing. He had systematically gathered information about her financial situation, and then deployed the exact emotional manipulation needed to make her question her marriage. "He played you, Jessica. From the very first conversation, he was evaluating whether you could solve his problems. You weren't his lost love. You were his exit strategy." Tears started flowing down her cheeks, but whether they were tears of realization or stubborn denial, I couldn't tell. "You don't understand what it feels like to wonder if you married the right person. You don't know what it's like to feel like you settled for safety instead of passion." "You're right," I said quietly. "I don't know what that feels like because I never settled when I married you. I chose you because I loved you, not because you were convenient or safe. I built a life with you because I wanted to share everything with you, not because I needed something from you." The silence that followed was deafening. Other customers at nearby tables continued their conversations, oblivious to the marriage dissolving in front of them. Jessica wiped her eyes with a paper napkin, smearing her mascara and looking younger and more vulnerable than she had in years. "What do you want from me, Michael? You want me to admit I made a mistake? Do you want me to beg for forgiveness? I want you to come home and be a mother to our daughters while you figure out what you really want. Sophie asked me last night if you were going to live somewhere else forever. Emma thinks you don't love her anymore because she did something wrong. Whatever confusion you're dealing with about Ryan, don't make our children pay the price for it. And us? What about our marriage? I gathered the financial documents and put them back in my briefcase. Honestly, Jessica, I don't know if there's an us anymore. You didn't just have an emotional affair. You threw away 8 years of partnership. Because a con artist told you what you wanted to hear. You were ready to break up our family based on 3 weeks of text messages and secret meetings. That's not the woman I married. So what happens now? Now you decide what's more important. To you, the fantasy Ryan Martinez sold you, or the reality of the family you already have. But you need to decide quickly, because I'm not going to spend the rest of my life competing with your high school memories. That evening, Amanda Chen and I had dinner at Bella Vista, an upscale Italian restaurant in the Harbor District. She had chosen a burgundy dress that complemented her professional confidence. And as we talked over wine and pasta, I found myself genuinely relaxed for the first time in weeks. So tell me about this situation you mentioned, Amanda said, her dark eyes serious but kind. I had rehearsed this conversation, but sitting across from her, I decided honesty was the better approach. My wife left me 3 weeks ago for her high school boyfriend. We have 2 young daughters, and right now, I'm trying to figure out whether my marriage is worth saving or if it's time to move forward with my life. Amanda's expression didn't change, but she set down her wine glass and gave me her full attention. That must be incredibly difficult. How are you handling it? Better than I expected, actually. The hardest part is protecting my daughters from the chaos. But I'm realizing that maybe this situation is showing me things about my marriage that I should have recognized years ago, such as the fact that I've been married to someone who was never fully committed to our partnership. Someone who is always looking backward instead of building forward. Amanda nodded thoughtfully. My parents went through something similar when I was in college. My mother had an affair with a colleague, and my father spent months trying to win her back before he realized she had already made her choice. The divorce was actually a relief for everyone involved. Do you think less of me for being here with you while I'm still technically married? I think you're a man trying to figure out his future while dealing with an impossible situation. I also think you're being more honest with me about your circumstances than most people would be. We talked for 3 hours about everything except Jessica and Ryan. Amanda shared stories about growing up in a family of lawyers, her decision to focus on corporate law instead of criminal defense, and her dreams of eventually starting her own practice. She was ambitious, grounded, and refreshingly direct about what she wanted from life. I should probably tell you, I said as we waited for the check, that tomorrow the entire town is going to know about my marriage problems. Riverside isn't exactly known for keeping secrets. Are you worried about your reputation? I'm worried. About my daughter's reputations. Sophie and Emma shouldn't have to deal with playground gossip about their parents. They're lucky to have a father who thinks about those things. Walking Amanda to her car, I felt something I hadn't experienced. Since college, the excitement of getting to know someone new, someone who shared my values and goals. Jessica had accused me of choosing safety over passion, but sitting across from Amanda, I realized I had never actually felt passionate about Jessica. I had loved her, cared for her, built a life with her, but I had never felt the intellectual and emotional connection that was developing with Amanda. My phone rang as I drove home. Jessica's name appeared on the screen, and for the first time since this nightmare began, I considered not answering. Michael, I tried to call Ryan after our lunch. He finally called me back an hour ago, and he said you were spreading lies about him because you were jealous. He said the financial problems were temporary setbacks, and that successful businessmen always have complicated situations. Did he explain the forged documents? Did he tell you why he's planning a wedding while still married? Not another long pause. He said Sarah was lying about the signatures and that he was only looking at venues because he was optimistic about our future together. Do you believe him? I don't know what to believe anymore. But Michael, I told him about our conversation today, and he wants to meet with you. He wants to clear the air. The last thing I wanted was a confrontation with Ryan Martinez, but perhaps it was time to end this charade once and for all. Fine. When and where? Tomorrow night. He suggested Sunset Park, by the playground where we used to take the girls. The location choice was calculated, designed to remind me of family memories and make me emotional. But Ryan Martinez had underestimated me. By tomorrow night, I would have one more surprise ready for him. And Jessica would finally see exactly what kind of man she had been ready to sacrifice everything for. "Let him 7 o'clock," I said. "And Jessica, you should probably be there too. It's time for all of us to stop pretending this situation is about love instead of money." The game was accelerating toward its conclusion, and Ryan Martinez was about to discover that Michael Thompson wasn't the pushover husband he had been counting on. The confrontation at Sunset Park was scheduled for 7 o'clock, but I arrived 30 minutes early with backup that Ryan Martinez would never see coming. James Wilson sat in his car across the street with a telephoto camera, ready to document whatever transpired. More importantly, Sarah Martinez was parked near the main entrance, having agreed to attend after I contacted her through her divorce attorney. Sarah Martinez was nothing like I had expected, where Jessica was soft and traditionally feminine. Sarah was athletic and direct, with the bearing of someone who had learned to rely on herself. When I approached her car, she rolled down the window and gave me a look that could have melted steel. "So you're the husband," she said without preamble. "The one whose wife thinks my soon-to-be ex-husband is her salvation." "That would be me. Thank you for coming. Don't thank me yet. I'm not here to help your marriage. I'm here to make sure Ryan doesn't get away with destroying another family the way he destroyed mine." "What exactly did he do to you?" Sarah's laugh was bitter and sharp. "What didn't he do? He mortgaged our house without telling me, borrowed money using my credit, spent our savings on his failing business while telling me everything was fine. When I found out, he tried to convince me it was all for our future together." Sound familiar? Very familiar. "How long were you married?" 6 years. 6 years of believing his promises and making excuses for his failures. Your wife is about to learn that Ryan Martinez is very good at making women feel responsible for his problems. At exactly 7 o'clock, Jessica's Toyota RAV4 pulled into the parking area near the playground. She stepped out looking nervous and uncertain, checking her phone repeatedly as she waited. 5 minutes later, Ryan Martinez arrived in a black pickup truck that had seen better days. From my position on a bench 50 yards away, I had a clear view of their interaction. Ryan was exactly what I had expected, tall, ruggedly handsome, in a blue-collar way, with the kind of confident swagger that probably worked well on construction sites and with women, who confused arrogance with strength. He kissed Jessica on the cheek when he greeted her, a gesture that was both possessive and performative. Even from a distance, I could see Jessica's discomfort with the public display of affection. Whatever romantic fantasy she had been nurturing was already starting to crack under the pressure of reality. I walked toward them slowly, giving Ryan time to notice my approach and prepare whatever performance he had planned. When I was close enough to speak normally, I stopped and nodded. To both of them. "Ryan Martinez," he said, extending his hand with a grip that was unnecessarily firm. "I've heard a lot about you, Michael Thompson. I'm sure you have." Ryan was shorter than me by several inches, but he carried himself like a man trying to project physical dominance. His clothes were clean but worn, his boots scuffed from actual work, and his hands showed the calluses of someone who earned his living with manual labor. There was nothing wrong with any of that, but combined with his aggressive demeanor, it painted a picture of someone trying too hard to prove himself. "Jessica tells me you've been spreading some pretty serious accusations about my business," Ryan said, his tone casual, but his eyes hard. "I think we need to clear the air. I haven't been spreading anything. I simply showed Jessica some public records that are available to anyone who knows where to look. Public records can be misleading if you don't understand the context. Then by all means, provide the context. Explain to Jessica why your company has 3 liens against it. Explain why you owe $60,000 to Tommy Russo." Ryan's jaw tightened, but he maintained his smile. "Business goes through ups and downs. Any successful entrepreneur will tell you that. The construction industry is particularly volatile right now. And the forged signatures on loan documents, is that also just business volatility? That's between me and my soon-to-be ex-wife. Sarah has a tendency toward drama when she doesn't get her way." It was exactly the opening I had been waiting for. I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text message. 30 seconds later, Sarah Martinez walked into the playground area with the confident stride of a woman who had nothing left to lose. "Did someone mention drama?" Sarah called out, her voice carrying across the evening air. Ryan's reaction was immediate and telling. The color drained from his face, his confident posture crumpled, and for the first time since I had met him, he looked genuinely afraid. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" "I'm here to make sure your new girlfriend gets the same honesty from you that I got during our marriage." Sarah turned to Jessica with a smile that was anything but friendly. "Hi, Jessica. I'm Sarah Martinez, Ryan's wife. The one he's still married to while he's making you promises about your future together." Jessica looked between Ryan and Sarah like a deer caught in headlights. "Ryan said you were divorced already. Ryan says a lot of things, most of them are lies designed to get him what he wants." Sarah pulled a folder from her purse and handed it to Jessica. "These are copies of the loan documents he signed, using my name. These are the bills for the wedding venue consultations he's been having while telling me he wanted to work on our marriage. And this is the letter from his attorney asking for spousal support because he claims he can't afford to maintain his current lifestyle." Jessica opened the folder with trembling hands, her face growing paler as she read. Ryan made a move toward her, but Sarah stepped between them with the protective instinct of a woman who had dealt with his manipulation for years. "Don't you dare," Sarah warned.
"Don't you dare."
"Try to convince her that this is all some misunderstanding. She deserves to know exactly what kind of man she's been risking her family for." "Sarah, you're taking everything out of context," Ryan said. But his voice lacked the confidence he had displayed moments earlier. "These are private matters between us." "Private matters? You used my credit to borrow money for your business? You mortgaged our house without my permission? You've been planning a wedding to another woman while we're still married?" "Nothing about this is private anymore." Jessica looked up from the documents, tears streaming down her face. "Ryan, is this true? Did you really do all of this?" "Baby, listen to me," Ryan said, his voice taking on a pleading quality that was both pathetic and infuriating. "Sarah is bitter about the divorce. She's trying to make me look bad because she knows she's losing me." "Losing you?" Sarah's laugh was incredulous. "Ain't, Ryan, I filed for divorce. I'm the one who wants out of this disaster. The only thing I'm losing is 6 years of my life I'll never get back. You're just upset because you know I never loved you the way I love Jessica." The words hung in the air like a slap. Sarah's expression shifted from anger to something approaching pity, and she shook her head slowly. "You want to know what he told me when we got married, Jessica? Said I was his soulmate, that he had never felt this way about anyone before. He said Sarah Martinez sounded perfect because we were meant to be together forever." Gosh. Sarah looked directly at Ryan with disgust. "You're not capable of loving anyone except yourself." I watched Jessica's face as the full weight of Sarah's words hit her. This wasn't just about financial fraud or business problems. This was about a man who systematically lied to women, who used their emotions and vulnerabilities to get what he needed, and who discarded them when they were no longer useful. "Jessica," I said quietly, "this is who you were ready to leave Sophie and Emma for. This is the man you thought was worth throwing away 8 years of marriage." Ryan made one final desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "Jessica, don't listen to them. They're working together to poison you against me because they're jealous of what we have." "What we have?" Jessica's voice was barely above a whisper. "What exactly do we have, Ryan? It's 3 weeks of secret phone calls and lies about your marriage. We have history. We have a connection that goes back to when we were kids. That means something. It means you know exactly how to manipulate." "Me," Jessica replied, her voice growing stronger. "It means you remembered what I was like in high school, and you used that knowledge to make me question everything good in my life." Ryan's mask finally slipped completely. The charming smile disappeared, replaced by the cold calculation of a man whose con had been exposed. "You know what, Jessica? Maybe this is for the best. I thought you had grown up, but you're still the same naive little girl you were in high school. Michael can have you. You deserve each other." He turned and walked toward his truck, his shoulders rigid with anger and humiliation. Sarah called after him, "Ryan, don't forget you have a meeting with the bankruptcy attorney on Monday. Try not to miss that one." The truck's engine roared to life, and Ryan Martinez drove out of our lives as abruptly as he had re-entered them. Jessica stood in the middle of the playground, surrounded by the evidence of his deception, looking lost and broken. "I'm sorry," Sarah said to Jessica, her voice gentler now. "I know this is hard to hear, but you needed to know the truth before you made any permanent decisions." Jessica nodded, unable to speak through her tears. Sarah handed her a business card. "That's my attorney's information. If Ryan tries to contact you again, call her. Men like him don't give up easily when they think someone might still be useful to them." After Sarah left, Jessica and I stood alone in the gathering dusk. The playground where we had brought our daughters dozens of times seemed like a monument to everything we had built together and everything she had been willing to throw away. "Michael, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything right now. You just need to decide what you want to do next." "I want to come home. I want to try to fix what I broke." I looked at the woman I had been married to for 8 years, the mother of my children, the person who had been ready to abandon our family for a fantasy. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the recognition of how badly she had misjudged everything. "It's not going to be that simple, Jessica. Coming home doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't rebuild the trust you destroyed. I know. I have to try. I have to at least try to make this right." What she didn't know was that while she had been chasing her high school dream, I had been building something new with someone who valued the same things I did. The choice she thought she was making between Ryan and me was no longer the only option on the table. Tomorrow, she would discover that I had also been exploring what life might look like beyond our marriage. And tomorrow, she would meet Amanda. Chen. Jessica moved back into the house the next morning while Sophie and Emma were at school. She unpacked her single suitcase in our bedroom like a guest checking into a hotel, careful not to disturb anything that might have changed during her absence. The awkwardness between us was suffocating, made worse by her obvious expectation that my forgiveness would be immediate and complete. "I called the school and told them I'd be back on Monday," she said, arranging her toiletries on the bathroom counter with unnecessary precision. "I also called Dr. Moore's office to schedule marriage counseling appointments." "Jessica, we need to talk before you start making plans." She turned to face me, and I could see the fear in her eyes. Fear that her grand gesture of coming home wouldn't be enough to erase 3 weeks of betrayal and humiliation. Fear that she had destroyed something that couldn't be repaired. "I know I hurt you, Michael. I know I made terrible choices. We can fix this, can't we? For Sophie and Emma?" "That's exactly the problem. You want to fix this for the girls, for appearances, for everyone except us. You haven't once said you came back because you realized you loved me and wanted to fight for our marriage." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Jessica sat on the edge of our bed, her hands folded in her lap, looking like a child waiting for punishment. "I do love you," she said finally, but the words sounded rehearsed and hollow. "No, Jessica, you love the security I provide. You love the life we built together. But you don't love me the way a wife should love her husband. Because if you did, Ryan Martinez never would have been able to manipulate you so easily." Before she could respond, my phone rang. Amanda's name appeared on the screen, and I answered without hesitation. "Michael, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." "Not at all. What can I do for you?" "I was wondering if you'd like to grab lunch today. I have some news about a potential collaboration between our firms." Jessica's eyes widened as she realized I was talking to another woman with obvious familiarity and warmth. The possibility that I might have moved on during her 3-week romantic adventure had apparently never occurred to her. "I'd love to. How about 1 o'clock at Bella Vista?" "Perfect. I'll see you then." After hanging up, I found Jessica staring at me with growing alarm. "Who was that?" "Amanda Chen. She's a paralegal at Chen and Associates. We've been working together on some business opportunities." "Business opportunities that require lunch dates?" "Among other things, yes." The transformation in Jessica's demeanor was immediate and dramatic. The contrite, apologetic woman who had been begging for forgiveness moments earlier was replaced by someone who looked like she was ready to wage war. "You're seeing someone else?" she said, her voice rising with each word. "While I was dealing with the Ryan situation, you were starting an affair." "Careful, Jessica. Throwing around accusations about affairs isn't exactly your strong suit right now. This is different. You're married. You have responsibilities. Responsibilities you abandoned when you decided Ryan Martinez was more important than our family. But I came back. I chose you. You came back because Ryan turned out to be a fraud and a liar. You didn't choose me, Jessica. You settled for me again, just like you think you did 8 years ago. The lunch with Amanda was a welcome escape from the tension at home. She looked radiant in a simple green dress that brought out the warmth in her dark eyes, and when she smiled at me across the table, I felt something I hadn't experienced in my marriage for years: genuine happiness in someone else's company. You look like a man who's had an interesting morning, she observed. Jessica moved back home today. She seems to think that erases everything that happened. And you don't agree? I think some betrayals change people permanently. I think I'm not the same man who was married to her 3 weeks ago. Amanda reached across the table and touched my hand briefly. For what it's worth, I think the man you are now is pretty remarkable. Even though I'm technically still married to someone else, especially because you're handling an impossible situation with integrity and honesty, not many men would have been as straightforward with me about their circumstances. We talked about everything except Jessica and Ryan, but their presence hung over the conversation like shadows. Amanda deserved better than being someone's rebound relationship, and I deserved better than a marriage built on obligation and habit. I need to ask you something, I said as we shared dessert. If I told you I was seriously considering divorce, would you be interested in seeing where this relationship could go? You asking hypothetically or practically? Practically. Amanda was quiet for several moments, considering her response with the careful deliberation I had come to appreciate about her. I would be interested, she said finally. But I would also want to make sure you're making that decision for yourself, not as a reaction to what Jessica did. What if it's both? Then I think you need to be completely honest with Jessica about where you stand before we take this any further. That evening, while Sophie and Emma played in their rooms after dinner, Jessica and I sat at our kitchen table for what I knew would be our final conversation as a married couple. I saw you with her today, Jessica said without preamble. Amanda Chen. Someone took a picture of you two holding hands at lunch and posted it on Facebook. Good, then you understand that coming home doesn't automatically fix everything. Michael, please. I made a mistake. Huge, terrible mistake. But doesn't 8 years of marriage count for something? It counts for a lot. It counts for 2 beautiful daughters and a house full of memories and a business I built partly to provide for our family. But it doesn't count enough to make me. Forget that you were ready to throw it all away for a man you barely knew. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was confused about what I wanted. And now you're thinking clearly. Yes, now I know that what I want is you and our family and the life we built together. I looked at the woman across from me, the mother of my children, the person I had shared nearly a decade of my life with. She was beautiful, intelligent, successful, and completely wrong for me. I want something different, Jessica. I want someone who chooses me first, not someone who settles for me after their other options fall through. I want someone who builds dreams with me instead of escaping into fantasies about the past. You want her. I want the possibility of her. I want to find out what it feels like to be with someone who values the same things I do, who's excited about the future instead of nostalgic about high school. And our daughters, Sophie and Emma, will always be my priority. They'll live here with me, visit you on weekends, and hopefully grow up understanding that sometimes parents love them enough too. End an unhappy marriage instead of staying together out of obligation. You can't just take them away from me. I'm not taking them anywhere. I'm staying in the house where they've always lived, maintaining the stability you disrupted. You're welcome to be as involved in their lives as you want to be. But you don't get to use them as leverage to force me back into a marriage that should have ended years ago. 3 months later, Jessica signed the divorce papers at Tom Harris's law office. She had fought initially, demanding counseling and mediation in every possible delay. But eventually, even she had to acknowledge that our marriage had been over long before Ryan Martinez entered the picture. Amanda and I took things slowly, building a friendship that gradually developed into something deeper and more substantial than anything I had ever experienced. She adored Sophie and Emma, and they responded to her warmth and genuine interest in their lives. We didn't rush into living together or making grand pronouncements about the future. Instead, we focused on creating something honest and sustainable. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I heard through the Riverside Gossip Network that Jessica had started dating again. Fellow teacher at the elementary school, someone age-appropriate and stable, who probably appreciated her exactly as she was. I felt nothing but relief and happiness for her. As for Ryan Martinez, his construction company declared bankruptcy within 6 months of our confrontation at Sunset Park. The last I heard, he had moved to Arizona to work for his brother-in-law's roofing business. Sarah Martinez kept her house, rebuilt her credit, and started her own consulting firm. She sent me a Christmas card that year with a photo of herself hiking in the mountains, looking healthy and free. Standing in my backyard last weekend, watching Amanda push Emma on the swing we had hung from the oak tree, I realized something important. Jessica had been right about one thing. I had married her for the wrong reasons, not because I was settling for safety over passion, but because I had confused compatibility with love and obligation with commitment. Real love, I learned, isn't about grand romantic gestures or nostalgic fantasies about the past. It's about choosing someone new every day, building something together that's stronger than the sum of its parts, and creating a future that excites both of you. Jessica thought she was choosing love when she ran to Ryan Martinez, but she was actually choosing illusion over reality, fantasy over responsibility. The irony is that by destroying our marriage, she gave me the chance to find something I didn't even know I was missing. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a marriage is for it to end before it destroys the people in it. Greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly who they really are, so you can finally decide who you want to be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.